that? Oh God, I'm gonna die. I gotta get this on camera. No. Hey everyone, welcome to the Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino, and today I'm excited to have my guest. Mis Sadistic is an actress, a model, an author, drag star, and much more. She also appears in the film Cannibal Comedian, and she's been in a number of films over the past 20 years. Mis Sadistic, thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, first of all, tell me how you got into the entertainment world, and we can get into Cannibal Comedian and some of your other films, but tell me how that came to be for you. Were you always interested in performing?
From when I was 5 years old, I was hooked on horror movies. The first horror movie I saw was Todd Browning's Freaks, and I wanted to be one of those characters in the movie. I never saw one of me in the movies. So I was lost in the Hollywood monster movies, but I never saw one of me. I knew I was different even at age 5. I would tell my parents, I'm going to be an actress, and then, I would get the belt. My mother would come into the living room screaming because I would have everything in the break front shaking because I was posing like Rita Moreno outside Grumman's Chinese Theater when West Side Story opened. And I would say to my mother, I'm going to be at Grumman's one day. I'm going to have a movie at Grumman's opening, and I'm going to stand everywhere where Rita stood and take pictures. My mother would say to me, get your head out of the clouds. You're having pipe dreams. You're going to be a doctor. And I would say, no, I'm not. And as I got older, they realized that I was headstrong and I was going to do what I wanted to do because, I turned out like mom. My mother had a will of steel. When I was 14, I lived on Long Island, and I knew Fire Island was just on the other side of the Great South Bay. And I waited for my mom to leave the house because those days there was one phone in the kitchen with the extendo cord. I called, got the operator, and things are meant to be in life. I got a gay male operator who could tell that I must have been as green could be because I wanted the phone number for the gay section of Fire Island. And he started to talk to me. He told me about Cherry Grove and he told me about the Pines. He even gave me the ferry schedules. So the following weekend, I made it out there. Now I was 6 feet tall. At that time frame in our history, the LGBTQ history, if you were at one of the bars, you belonged there. It was very different than it is today. Nobody asked me for ID. It was packed. It was a Saturday. I'm at the Ice Palace, and they had a queen on stage, a trans woman of color, and I was mesmerized. I couldn't keep my eyes off her. My eyes must have been like saucers. So after the show, she had come out. She was coming across the dance floor towards me, and she's giving me this. And I'm looking behind me because I don't know who this is and nobody knows me, and the place is packed. So she finally got up to me. She says to me, I'm going to ask you a question. She said, and don't lie to me. How old are you? I said, I'm 14. I'm going to turn 15 in July. She said, come with me. So she took me to the dressing room, and we had a very long talk. She said, I could see you from the stage. She said, you want to be up there? I said, more than anything in the whole world. Within 2 weeks, she had me on stage. And that's where it started. I was impersonating Cher because at that time frame, to get any type of work, you had to be a celebrity lookalike. So I looked like Cher. And I was spot on. And that's what started it. And it started a ball rolling that when I look back now, I still can't believe where I am. And I'm where I am because of allies, people whose eye I caught, not because I'm some great talent. It really is whose eye you catch. And I've been fortunate and I am so grateful because the journey has been unreal. It's like Twilight Zone, and in the background, Rod Serling is narrating, but I just can't hear it because that's what it feels like to me.
How did you get into your first film, and what was that?
My first film I got into through a friend. I had a buddy, we used to meet, almost every day of the week. We'd go out for happy hour and then we go out for sushi. And Anthony was very down to earth. He was a sweetheart. I had no idea Anthony had been in films with Will Smith. So we were having drinks one day, and Anthony says to me, I have a friend that's making a movie, and you would be great for it. I said, I would love it. I said, but before we just show up, and when I say me, myself and my partner, I said, I want you to do me a favor. I said, you talk to your friend. I said, you tell him exactly what I am. I said, I don't want to waste his time and I don't want to waste mine. Well, we met the following night. Oh my God, I told my friend Sean all about you, and he was referring to Sean Heights. He said, he wants to meet you. He can't wait. So I went down for the audition and I met his whole family. I met his nana and his mother and his sisters and his brother and his dad. And it was like being accepted into a giant family of horror people who were really theatrical and encouraged Sean from when he was a kid to make movies. His grandmother got him a camera and encouraged him. So I did the audition. They threw a severed head at me. I screamed like a banshee. And that was that. That's what started it. And the first movie was Mangrove Slasher 2.
Well, I've always, a lot of the things I focus on my show are the horror genre. Um, do you like the horror genre? How do you feel that you fit into that world? I mean, is it comfortable? Is it anything you ever thought you would do appear like in, whether it's a dark comedy or a horror movie? Is that something you ever saw yourself doing?
I always saw myself being an actress. I always saw myself on screen like Yvonne DiCarlo or Maria Montez or Gloria Swanson or Betty Davis. I saw myself doing that, but I never saw a trans person doing that. I never saw a trans actress playing a trans character in a horror film. I realized what I was watching old newsreels when I saw Christine Jorgensen descending a staircase at the airport in New York. And I was like, that's what I am. That's when I realized there was a name for what I am. Because before that, it was different. It wasn't like today where, we were out everywhere. We weren't out everywhere. Um, I've been fortunate because Sean's cast me as trans characters. And it took them a while to kind of get used to me because I say what's on my mind. I tell jokes that are off color. I tell jokes that I think are funny within my own community. And you don't have to be so overly politically correct. It's okay to laugh. And that came over time, and it's a blast. I mean, I have a film coming out, hopefully beginning of next year. It's an alien film. Even the aliens trans. They come here to impregnate the men, and then when the babies are born, they eat the host. It's been a wild ride. The first movie, Mangrove Slasher 2, it was a short. It opened at the Sarasota Film Festival to a sold out show, and they had to add on 2 more shows, and they were sold out. When I got the call back for that movie, it was on voicemail, and it was Sean's sister-in-law, Krista Heights, and your cast is drag queen number 1 and drag queen number 2, but the characters are really co-cores. And my partner says to me, I went down there hoping they would use my music. I'm not a drag queen. He's got a big mustache and he plays the sheriff in Cannibal Comedian. I said, you're doing it. He said, no. I said, you're doing it. That's it. You're doing it. People give their eye teeth to get cast in a film. So we did it. We had a ball. We had a ball, and it was a stepping stone for so many other things. I got book deals out of it that I didn't see coming. I wasn't a good student. My spelling is atrocious. My grammar is awful. I didn't like school. I wound up doing, I was, Todd Kottmeyer contacted me online, and he did a series of books called The Drag Handbook, Drag 411, Drag Parents, Crown Me, and he gave me 100 questions to answer. And I did. And I became part of the books. I'm on the cover on a few of them. And it's interesting in my own words. So I was able to have the opportunity because of these movies do this. So I was able to talk about the first person I met at the Ice Palace, Charlena. I will never forget her. She put me on this path. She guided me to where I needed to go. I knew what I wanted, but there was no road. I was making my own road as I went. Very different than now. And then, one thing led to another. I had a place in Key West for many years. And my neighbor was Barbara. Barbara was very sweet. We used to meet for drinks. She has a camera around her neck all the time. And she said to me one day, I'm thinking of doing a book. I said, okay. She said, I want you in it. She said, I'm going to do like 40 of the top female impersonators in the US. She said, I want you to be part of it. She said, I don't know what, it's going to be a coffee table book, but I'm not quite sure. I spoke to some of the other girls in Key West. She said, but everybody wants to be filmed a certain way, photographed a certain way. They want to wear their crowns and their sashes. I said, Barbara, I'll do whatever you want. I said, if you want me naked, I'll let you take pictures of me naked. I don't care. I'll be happy to be part of it. So I told my mother about it, and I was signing a contract. So Mom was on the first flight down from New York to Key West. So I met with Barbara, and my mother's saying to her, Barbara, you look so familiar. She said, well, you probably remember me from the Ed Sullivan Show. I'm Barbara Benjamin Marcus, Robert Duvall's ex-wife. I had no idea the whole time I knew her. So I did the interview with her. I let her photograph me the way she wanted. And I'm in her book called Inside Out. And she gave me a 2-page spread. I didn't know the book had come out because, time passes. Things are not immediate in the publishing industry, in the movie industry. Sometimes you'll do something and many years later it'll come out. If you're lucky, it'll come out. So about 10 years later, one of my friends who still is in Key West, who still has a show down there, Inga contacted me on Facebook and she said, girl, you look fantastic. I was like, I love you, sweetheart, but when did you see me last? She said, no, you're on page 84 and 85 or 85 and 86 of Barbara's book. It's out. It's a bestseller. I had no idea. So I immediately contacted Barbara. She said, you're like a gypsy. She said, how many times do you move? She said, I couldn't track you down. I said, Barbara, I had opportunities, so I kept on going forward. She said, give me your current address. She said, I'm going to get a book out to you right away. So she sent me one of the signed ones, and I was thrilled. And I talked about things in the book at a time frame where she said to me, are you sure you want this made public? I said, yes, because it may help somebody else. I said, that's the only reason I'm doing all of this. At this point in my life, I'm beyond the stroking the ego. This is now, I don't have children. I want to leave something behind for generations coming up, the ones that haven't been born yet, and let them know you're perfect the way you are. Absolutely perfect. You have a dream, don't let anyone interfere with it. Follow your dream. And if a door closes and a window opens, climb through the window. And if you're locked in a room, make your own hole in the wall and get out and move on. If you feel, oh, I missed out on something. You might not have missed out on anything. It might have been the universe telling you you're not meant to do this because you're meant to do something else. And it's the universe pushing you forward. I wasn't always like this. This is time and life experiences, which is why you hear me speaking the way I speak now. Because when I was younger, oh, I was headstrong. It was my way or the highway. It was very different. So now I want to let the ones coming up know, be happy. It's a choice. I wake up every day. You choose to be happy or unhappy. I choose to be happy. Why be unhappy?
You said growing up it was hard to, to share who you were and what you wanted to do with your life in terms of acting. When did your family, or specifically your mom, come around to understanding who you were and supporting you in your creative world?
My father passed when I was 10, and it was my mother and my grandmother. And I was going to do what I wanted to do. I mean, my mother tried to stop me from getting out to Fire Island because one of her girlfriends had said to her, they were playing mahjong one night, and she says, "Oh, Dolores, I saw your son." My mother said, "Where?" She said, "On Fire Island. It was at the Ice Palace. He was performing." My mother didn't say a word to me. The next weekend, she followed me. And as I'm, slick walking up to the pier, because I already know everybody online because it's like the same group on the weekends, because it's, the summertime. You only have those 8 great weeks if God bless you, don't have rain. And I knew some of the guys, and my mother grabbed me from behind and beat my ass all the way back to the car. And then she says to them, he's only 15 years old. And then everybody's face cracked. But that's how it started. And over time, my mother realized, because no matter what, I was performing. I started in Manhattan. I performed in the clubs in the city. Um, you know, it was interesting. I performed at the Cat Club. Uh, I was the Studio 54 era. It was very different, and it was fun, and nothing was stopping me. I performed at the Ice Palace and the Monster and a whole bunch of other clubs. A lot of them aren't there anymore because everything changes. My mother got used to it, and it got to a point over time. You have to realize, Mommy was born in 1929. I'm a product of the 60s. It was different. When I went to protests in Manhattan, these weren't gay pride parades. These were sexual liberation marches, and we were dodging beer bottles that were being thrown at us. And we would pick them up and throw them back. I learned from my elders, if anybody's going to walk away, you make sure it's you, not them. And that was my mindset. But Mom, over time, came with me. And when I was doing the club circuit, especially in South Florida, I was very lucky. I got a break at the Fountain Blue. Their share quit abruptly. And I had a friend who contacted me. He said, if you can be at the Fountain Blue at 5 o'clock tonight, made up and ready to work, they'll put you on stage. Well, it gave me an opportunity that opened other doors for me. It was a short stint, but it was fun, and it was a stepping stone. And then I was a Copa girl down in Key West, and I did the cabaret show upstairs at the 801. But Mom was there then. Mom was, coming into the dressing room and hanging out. She was everybody's mom. My mother at that point in life could not understand how some of the other kids that I knew, the parents just tossed them out of the house like they didn't exist anymore. My mother just could not grasp that a parent could do that to a child. So Mom really came. It was a journey for her that she never expected to go on, I'm sure. Um, she was very supportive. And she was very supportive till the very end. I mean, the last 10 years, Mom was living with us because She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. But before that, like if mom had to go to one of the anniversaries for my aunt's, or she would call me up and she said, I don't know what I'm going to wear. I would say, come down, I'll do your hair, and go through my wardrobe, because I had a ton of show clothes. Bob Mackie, like to see me, because back then it was different. You really had to look like the celebrities you were impersonating, right down to the garments. So mom would show up, and we were built the same. My aunts over time, they weren't built like this anymore. Mom still looked like a Barbie doll, so mom would walk in and the ants would spit blood. But that's how it evolved with mom. And we were close up until the end. It was because of my partner, David, Lucifer's Axe, that I was able to keep her home up until the very end. So, it was a change. My mother, when she first met David, she said to him, don't get comfortable. She loved him like a son. That was the son that she wanted. I was the showgirl that she got.
Well, that's amazing, though. And it is so important. I know times have somewhat changed, but in some ways, it feels like I'm sure you might feel the same way that a lot of things are going backwards. For people in not just the trans community, but the queer community, or people who are different in any way, in the times we're living in now, and based on what you've gone through and protesting and fighting for the rights that we have today, what would your advice be to young people, especially living in the times that we're in now, where there is so much, it feels like people are coming for the rights of people in our communities, and not just us, but a lot of people who are marginalized in any way. What would your advice be to how to continue moving forward and not letting that take them back or get them, depressed or down?
First, don't let anybody dim your light. Don't hide. Don't hide in the closet. The only one that hurts is you. You make sure you're visible. We are many, we are mighty, and we are stronger together. Thanks to the internet, it's very easy for all of us to connect. There are millions of us. There are all different types of outlets, whether you're LGBT, whether you're LGBT of color, whether you're Latino LGBT, what it the entire I try and put it in a perspective where the youngest of the listeners would get it. When they come for us, they are not going to give a damn what flavor of the rainbow you are. They're going to come for all. So we can't have divisions in our communities. That means gay, straight, bi, trans, black, white, Asian, whatever. We all have to stick together. If we look back at history, it gave us a blueprint to survive this shit. When I was younger, I watched a lot of the blaxploitation films, the Pam Grier films, and it gave me almost a navigation guide to get to here. I don't blend. I never blended. I was always out. I was out in an era in New York, where I was born and raised, where we were a mental disorder until the early 70s, and it was us against the cops. And I still went out. I would get dressed, and those days I really wore short stuff. I looked like a hooker. And I would go in, get out in Times Square, walk to the bars, and nobody bothered me. But also, I was a regular going like down to the Monster and the Ice Palace and the Sticks. And after a while, the people knew me on the street. So even the pimps and the drug dealers back when Times Square was really sketchy, they watch out for me. If somebody said something to me, yeah, somebody would go kick their ass. You have to make allies and look through a different lens because you don't know where or what segment of society those allies are going to come from. I was being chased through the city one night on foot in heels. Bunch of guys started with me. I had come out of the Monster. And they were coming up closer and saying really nasty shit. So I turned around and I told them exactly what I thought of them. Well, they really started chasing me. And I met a man, homeless. He was living in a box, not far from Washington Square Park. And he took me in the box. He said, be quiet. He said, just stay in here. He said, you'll be safe. We started to talk. He had been a professor at the college. His wife had left. His world fell apart. And he walked away from everything. So you don't know who your allies are. You don't know who's going to talk to you, who will be the person that is one of those profound moments in life that pivots you into where you belong. So keep an open mind, keep an open heart. You don't know who you're meeting, what their story is. You don't know, just a smile for somebody or talking to somebody like they are seen, they're visible, could make all the difference in the world to them that day. Yeah, I learned a hard lesson when I was very young. I was about, 16 or 17. I was in one of the bars in the city. I always had an attitude because I was always stared at, picked on, made fun of. If it wasn't my height, it was my weight, it was the way I looked. Because see, with the makeup on, I passed. Without the makeup on was when I got called all the wonderful expletives. So I was always very defensive. So a man was staring at me and staring at me and staring at me. I was at the Eagle. And I turned around, I said, what the are you looking at? He said, I thought you were really hot. He said, I didn't realize you were an asshole. That was a lesson I never forgot, ever. It stays with me to this day. That was one of those profound moments in life. And it changed my attitude with a quickness. This is why I share my stories with people.
Well, it's important to share them, and I think now more than ever, it's so relevant, and people do need to hear positive stories, and they also need to see stories of success like yourself. As we talked, you've done so many different things. Is there something that you haven't tackled yet in your career that you would like to, or is there just some kind of dream that you have that you haven't accomplished yet? What is it if there is one, or are you content with, everything that you have accomplished thus far?
I am still pinching myself because although I had the dreams of being an actress, I still have other dreams. I want a movie in Cannes, like Melina McCory in Never on Sunday, because when I was a kid, I watched that movie. My dad was Greek, my mother's a Jewish Italian. Uh, so when I saw Never on Sunday, it was like, oh, I want a movie in Cannes. But see, horror movies, well, not so much. But I was very lucky this past year to work with a young director, and he's doing a drama with an ensemble cast of 4 people. It's called The Lost. And you don't realize what my character is at the beginning because it's a child about 6 years old, his abusive alcoholic father, the psychiatrist, and the monster in his closet. And I'm the monster. I look like I'm of ash and ember. And as the script progresses, you find out I'm his guardian angel. I'm hoping when the film is finished that Kevin will put it in Cannes because I want a movie in there. I have been to Cannes Film Festival time of the year several times. I've been on this side of the red carpet. I want to be on the red carpet. And I want to be someday at the Oscar stage for playing trans characters and being able to, even if I'm not there to win, I would love to present to one of my directors because these kids stuck their necks out for me.
What other projects do you have coming up?
I have a documentary I'm working on with the trans community in Palm Springs. It's not my film. I had been at the award ceremony for Bellevue Bob, and a woman started to talk to me. And she's a director and producer out of San Francisco, and she's been trying to get her foot in the door in Palm Springs to do a documentary on the trans community. She said, and no one would talk to her. I said, well, you came to the right one. I said, they'll all talk to you. She said, I can't get a doctor to talk to me. They hang up. I said, well, so we did. We had meetings, we spoke, and I got people lined up that she would not have access to because the trans community is very guarded and for good reason, especially with the political climate today. But I feel it's the right time in our history to do this and to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not just show one sided, you have to show everything because we come in all shapes and sizes and colors and backgrounds and, socioeconomic sections of society. Everything has to be shown. Um, I'm working on other books. I have done a series of cookbooks. I came from a household where you lived at the table. My grandmother had 6 sisters. My great grandmother passed away very young. My mother and my grandmother's youngest sister were the same age. And my grandmother raised the girls like they were daughters. So I have all those wonderful recipes because out of all the girls in the family, naturally, I'm the only one that cooks. Well, actually, now I'm the only one that's left because my mother waited very late in life to have me. The first book I did was Yes, My Dungeon Has a Kitchen. And I mixed my career because my career started out from the leather BDSM community, who my fans are still my fans. They are the most loyal. They're the horror fans, the kink and fetish fans. I created a character that I am so blessed that I endeared myself into people's hearts. And they have an affection for Mis Sadistic, and I'm thrilled. I'm so grateful. Well, after I did the first book, that I did to stroke my ego because I put my career in it, plus the food in it. It was a lot of pictures of me. But after that, I had done another one, a smaller edition. And I take it to the conventions with me. So when we're at the horror conventions, I have it on the table with mugs and photographs and all kinds of merch. But I'm working on another cookbook and I want to get all of the recipes into it because my recipes go back now all the way to 1899. My grandmother's rugula, any place I bring that rugula to, I could tell it right away who the Jewish kids are. Oh, this is better than Bubby's. I don't know what's different about it other than my grandmother's dough is not like anybody else's. But I'm working on another cookbook with all the recipes in it. And I am also working on my life story. I didn't know where to start. And within the last 10 years, a lot of people who have interviewed me have suggested I do my life, tell people about it. And I didn't know where to begin. To me, I didn't think my life was that exciting. I didn't think it was that extraordinary. When you wake up every day, especially coming out in the 70s, you survived that day. Sometimes you survived that moment. You're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to change the world and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to. No, I got through today. And then when I woke up the next day, I got through the next day and so on and so on. I didn't plan it. Where the journey led me, I paved the road. I kept going. I just, I added more blacktop. I kept going down the road. I just kept on paving the road. I'm still paving the road. I don't know where I'm going to wind up. I never thought the words would roll off my tongue. I'm in my 60s. I just, for a long time I hid my age because working with what I do, like everything else, they want big boobs, little waistline, perpetual 20-year-old. And it gets to a point where, you know what? We age. And I try and let a lot of the younger actresses now know it's okay to age. We all age. I want to play horrid, wicked looking creatures. I think it's cool. I don't mind looking, I don't mind looking older on film. I got the plastic surgeon on speed dial. But I want people to know it's okay to age. There's a woman in Palm Springs, Colleen Heidman. She is an 80 plus old year model. She's gorgeous. And after seeing her, I thought, you know what, I'm not hiding my age anymore. I'm done. Because there are young girls that may look at my stuff or look at my YouTube and think, oh my God, she's got a 25-inch waistline. I'm naturally built like this. My mother was built like this. My grandmother was built like this. I can eat whatever I want. I don't gain any weight. But I want the kids to know this is just genetic. You don't have to look like this. However you look is fantastic the way you are. You have to love you. You have to love you before you can love anybody else. Once you love yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say. And don't let the negative energy into your orbit. I don't. If somebody is not full of positive, uplifting energy, they do not get into my orbit. It's not healthy. It really does bring you down. It makes you sick. You shouldn't be around people that are not uplifting. If they're not happy for you, then they shouldn't be around you. And that's just the way I live. And I think it's much more healthy. I had a mother come to the opening of Cannibal Comedian, and I was surprised. She wanted her daughter to meet me. So I'm expecting, a daughter like 15, 16, 17. She had a child that was about 8 years old. And she waited patiently for me to get done with fans and taking pictures. And she introduces me to this lovely little girl. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you brought your daughter to Cannibal Comedian? She said, my daughter wants to be an actress. She wants to talk to you. She wants to meet you in the worst way. I said, that's fine. So she sat the little girl down next to me and she starts to walk away. I said, where are you going? She said, well, I was going to let you talk. I said, no, no, no. I said, number one, you never leave your kid alone with anybody. I said, if they won't let you in the room with her, if she's with an audition or whatever, she doesn't need to be there. She was very surprised. I said, never leave her alone. So it got to the point where the little girl opens her mouth and starts to talk to me. I was floored. It was like Betty Davis in this little body. This child knew exactly what she wanted to do, how she wants to do it, what type of actress she wants to be. So we talked for a very long time, and it was just such a joy. I never expected, people bringing children to the films, but it takes all types, and she loved the characters, and she thought my character was really cool. So it's a very interesting road that I travel on, and I keep on learning lessons.
If people want to follow you or they're interested in seeing your work or reading your books or the cookbooks, where can they go to find that information?
You can find me on social media as Miss, that's MIS, Miss with one S, Mis Sadistic. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on YouTube. Where else am I? I have to ask my husband because I don't remember everything. Uh, that pretty much covers it. But I'm on all the social media. I keep up with everything. I post as often as I can. And I try and bring as many people along as I possibly can. So far, we've got 19 people that we were friendly with that wanted to be in films. We got them in. When you start to rise, take everybody with you. You bring everybody. You don't rise alone. You rise with as many as you can bring.
I love that. I love hearing that. And I mean, that's awesome that you have that mindset because a lot of people don't always have that mindset when, they're successful. There's so much competition. And of course, in your world, that's, I'm sure, very prevalent. You probably experienced it. So it's nice to hear that for you, it's also about helping others accomplish their dreams and grow as well.
It's just because of my interactions with people in life that made me who you're speaking with today. I didn't get here alone. I got here with the help of many, many, many other people: gay people, trans people, straight people, bi people, people of every ethnicity. The films I've worked on are some of the most diverse sets. You have every flavor of the rainbow on these sets. We don't just work together in a film. Everyone that I have worked with were like family. And I mean like family like this. We all love each other. We interact outside of the films. Whether it was Sean's first film, Mangrove Slasher 2, or Big Top Evil, Cannibal Comedian, Area 5150, Bellevue Bob, Blood, Sweat, Tears, and More Blood, which is the new one that just opened, the premiere. It's the making of Cannibal Comedian, and it shows the background. They went back and found newsreels almost 20 years old of me and my partner. They did an amazing job. Did a really amazing job. That's in with the DVD. The DVD is available at Scream Team Releasing. There is a signed Blu-ray, and the documentary is in with it. So Blood, Sweat, Tears, and More Blood is in with it, and you can see the behind the scenes. And it goes into also a little bit of my relationship with my partner and how many years we're together and things like that. And it was tear jerking watching it. The first time we watched it, it was at our producer's apartment in LA. And my husband was sitting kind of back to the side. But every so often I could hear like a sobbing sound. And every so often the producer would say, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" He was crying like a baby. We didn't expect the kids to do this. The way they featured us in there, we're just so grateful and so humbled. And they're just wonderful. Ryan James from Pink Plaid Productions, he's the best. He is the hardest working man in Hollywood. I don't think this man sleeps. Sean Heights, also, he comes up with characters that are so wonderful that you just want to bring to life. It's an interesting group. Everyone we've worked with has been fantastic. And there are so many of the people I worked with that I wish you would interview because they deserve the recognition. There's a girl that opens up Cannibal Comedian. Her name is Tanya Estrada. Her character sets the tone for the movie. I mean, she's running through the desert. The terrain we were in really was, we were in the desert, and it wasn't at a good time of the year. It was awful. She's running covered in blood and panties. And it's just she doesn't get enough recognition. I love the character. It's one of my faves. There are so many fantastic characters in the movie. I'm not singling anyone out. I just, the one that opened it, that set the tone, really left an impression with me. Aaron, who plays Charlie, the cannibal comedian, he is a sweetheart, both on and off screen. Working with him is a joy. I got to work with him also in The Lost. He plays the alcoholic, abusive father, and I can't tell you more about it because I'll give it away. but it's when it comes out, please watch it. I think you'll enjoy it. Um, there are so many people we've worked with that I can't believe I had the opportunity to work with. Alan Danziger and Ed Nealer in Cannibal Comedian. They were in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Alan played Chainsaw Jerry, and Ed Neal was the hitchhiker that was cutting himself with the straight razor. He's the voice of the skeleton in Cannibal Comedian. Bill Moseley, I never thought in my wildest dreams when I watched House of a Thousand Corpses, I was going to be in movies with this actor. He's such a wonderful, sweet, kind, compassionate man. You would never know he's an actor. He's so humble, so wonderful. Um, Caroline Williams, who I want to work with. I want to work with her in the worst way. I know Caroline a long time. We met at a convention. And over the years, we become friends. And it's like, these are people that I watched. And now it's just surreal. So when they do Cannibal Comedian 2, I'm hoping it's going to be, Bill Moseley and Caroline Williams, because they were in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So it'd be nice if the director could keep on moving through.
I love all of that. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yes, independent films do not get made with big budgets. So if you see a film and you see somebody that's doing a fundraiser or an Indiegogo, please give generously. Even if it's $1, it makes a difference because we're doing films on such low budgets. But when they're shown, and they're shown, at the Chinese theater, and major directors don't realize that you did a film for 30 some odd $1,000, which is what Cannibal was their budget. Give and give generously. I'm working on a music video in August with the director, Joe Gonzalez. Dirty Joe is his handle online. He's an award-winning musician, movie maker. He won so many awards internationally last year. He did a video for the Desert Fiends. Well, he's doing another one. He cast for Area 5150. But he cast me in it as like an anti-character, like Tina Turner and Mad Max. And he has my husband cast in there and quite a few friends, but they are still raising money. So if you go to Dirty Joe's page or find Joe Gonzalez and go to the Indiegogo and please give generously because he is doing this on truly a shoestring budget and every penny helps. So when you see us and, you see us, we'll talk for the directors. It's like, yes, you need me to do, not a problem. We'll do whatever it takes. You need us to be on, to talk, to get people to, we'll do it. Because we're with you the whole trip from the beginning of the film till after production, and we continue to show up because we're grateful to be in these.